welcome everybody back to Black Ribbon Warrior, where we discuss our journey with metastatic melanoma cancer. I am joined by my lovely bride,
Hello.
and hmm, how's your week been?
Busy, but good.
Busy, busy, yeah.
Yeah.
Getting settled into your new job,
Yeah, getting settled in, finishing, the last few weeks of this mini master for school,
and you're
adjusting to the changes of everything.
still finishing up schooling.
Yep.
So those of you who don't know, she went back to school when we found out that I had cancer.
I
and
figure what's a little stress? We should just add a little bit more.
Yeah, so when I got shortly after I got diagnosed and after the brain surgery and all that, and um, the prognosis was about 6 years. Um, that she was like, well, the insurance and stuff like that, the way the career path was going that she was currently on, she decided to go back to school and get a whole nother degree in a whole nother field. And she's getting really close to finishing, so that's awesome.
Yeah, about 10 weeks.
So kudos to you for that.
Thanks.
Um, so currently we are, what are we, like 6 weeks from the last infusion? 7?
Well, the 27th will be 8 weeks.
So next week will be 8 weeks.
Yeah, I didn't remember.
Yeah.
Next week will be eight
Yeah.
weeks.
So we're 7 weeks since the last infusion. Um, I've been doing a lot more walking. So like we went to the outlet malls and just walked around and stuff. And I've been going to stores and just walking around. And so I'm spending more time walking in stores and just kind of meandering. And my knees have been sore.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've been complaining more
Not
often,
complaining.
and I don't mean complaining in a negative way. I mean just telling me that your legs and your knees are hurting more
Yep.
so since you've been walking more.
And it could be the type of shoes I'm wearing. So I'm wearing Crocs, and I probably should be wearing nice tennis shoes. But
Which you have
yes, I have, but I just don't wear them.
because you just slide on your cracks because they're easy.
Yep. So
What's that you always say? If it's easy, it's not for me. So maybe you should take the extra 2 minutes and put on your tennis shoes.
yeah.
Just a, just an idea, suggestion.
Yep. It's work in progress. But I've been doing a little more walking and stuff like that. So
You had a period early last week that you were really tired. And you
yeah.
were just completely exhausted for about 3 days.
Yep. And that was after our road trip
Yeah.
that we took, and just being in the car. I think we talked about I was trying to help her drive because she got off work, and we packed up and we had about a 4.5 hour ride to our oldest daughter's place. We were going up for the weekend, and I tried to help drive at night, and we weren't probably 20 minutes into it, 30 minutes into it, and I mean I was the headlights were bothering me so bad, and it never used to bother me before, but since this, it bothered me so bad. I mean, it's 9 o'clock at night, pitch black, and I'm wearing sunglasses to try to help.
Which made me incredibly nervous.
Yep, I had them pulled down at the end of my nose, so when there was no headlights or cars coming, I could look over my glasses. But then when the car would come, I'd lean my head back so I could look through the glasses.
Yeah,
So,
nervous. I was nervous. You were white knuckling the last 10 to 20 minutes.
yep. So I made it about an hour, hour
About
and
an
a half.
hour and a half, we decided.
Yeah, so it was about an hour, hour and a half. I made it,
Which
and
is
I
kind of
was
your,
I was done. I
that's
mean,
kind of your longevity with driving. I think
yep,
your longest one ever since the brain surgery was almost 2 hours.
yep,
And it happened one time. It was like, it wasn't you drove
And that was during the
2
day.
hours there and 2 hours home. It
Yeah,
was 2 hours total, and then you didn't drive anymore.
right. And
Sorry.
that was during the daytime. And after about that hour and a half mark, I was toast. And there was just nowhere to, you know, we didn't want to pull up on the side of the road. She was looking for a place to, like, make a pit stop and
Yeah,
bathroom and
pulling
all
off
that.
on the
So,
side of the road without having anything just makes me nervous.
so,
Too often people are hit that way.
so as soon as we found an exit to get off on, which was about 30 minutes down the road, road construction was terrible. But anyway, so that is something that we're working on. Um, the driving more, it's still not there, and driving at night is a whole another thing.
Which is completely opposite from how you were before the surgery.
Yep,
You couldn't drive in the daytime to save you.
yep. Because I'd been on night shift for so long. I mean, I thrived at night. I mean, that's where I live, and so
Within half
driving.
an hour in the daytime, you're like, okay, I'm done.
Yep,
And I drive in the daytime,
yep.
and you drive at night. Well, now that's kind of switched. That nighttime makes it so much worse for you.
It does, and I'm looking at like some yellow tint. I remember before when I had I had some trouble driving at night. I got some yellow tinted like glasses, like safety glasses, and that seemed to help. So I might be looking into digging in the garage and digging those out. But so we did have some news from a friend of ours who's, let's see, like 3 months behind me.
Yeah, she's right about 3 months behind
Yep.
where you are in your journey.
So she's doing well. She had I don't want to say a setback, but they found a mass. They went ahead and removed it, and
They think there's clear margins, and they think that's all they're going to have to do um, to deal with it for now. She's going to stay on her normal course of action.
yep. So for the prayer warriors, hey, throw her out there. Just label her as our friend, and the Lord knows who we're talking about. Um, so let's see. We went. I said we went to the outlet malls because our youngest wanted some new clothes, and so since all this started, I've lost about 50 pounds, say in 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, roughly 2 years, a year and a half. And so majority of the clothes that I would wear on a normal basis don't fit. Like they're too big. Too big to the point where the wife's like, "You're not wearing going out of the house like that."
And often you don't listen to me, and you still put on the ones that are the biggest
Yep,
because you haven't wrapped your head around the fact that you're not that size anymore.
yep. So getting going from comfortably in a 3X to,
And a 3X was a while ago.
yeah, well that was a comfortable. I was comfortable in it.
In a
If you had
shirt,
those days that,
by the way, not pants, in a shirt.
yeah, like a t-shirt, and that was comfortable. So on the days you felt fat and swollen, those still felt comfortable. Now a 2X feels great.
Hmm.
So, and I was actually given an extra large for Christmas,
And it fits perfect.
and yeah, it just fits. So if I was having a fat and swollen day,
It wasn't going to work, but
you're gonna look like a sausage about to explode. But that, given that, and we're trying to get more of the SPF kind of shirts.
well, yeah,
That,
your dermatologist kind of recommended and said that the only time your skin is safe is when it's completely covered or you're inside with the drapes pulled.
yep. So
So,
if you're sitting at the window and the sun's shining in and you're feeling the warmth and all that, yeah, that's still damaging. And he told me stories of one patient that if she wore flip flops out to the mailbox, he said the mailbox wasn't that far away, 30 yards or whatever, and back, she would have a sunburn to where when she took her flip flop off, you could still see the whatever it's called, the
The
Y,
strapping.
the straps on her foot. So
And I do think that this treatment makes your skin more sensitive.
more sensitive, more vulnerable.
So,
Um,
but
so
yeah, so we
so
got you
we
some new clothes.
yep. So we found some shirts and some of these fishing pants is what I call them. They're like lightweight, kind of not joggers, but
Well, you got a pair of joggers, but they're just a casual pant that you can zip the legs off. You can put the,
yep,
you got a couple pair, I think. You can put the legs on, and Lee's. You're always really concerned about spending money on clothing, but I'm like, I'll spend whatever money if this is a small thing that we can control with this disease.
yep. Because this is something that I mean that you got to take into consideration of whenever you're outside doing something, you need a long sleeve shirt on, and
I mean, you have
you don't.
you have quite a bit of the SPF long sleeve shirts, but
Yeah, I do now.
knowing that you wear them every day,
Yep,
like when I find them on sale, I just buy them, and you look at me like I'm crazy some days, and I'm like,
and I
I know,
wear
but they were on sale,
and I like long sleeve shirts anyway. So
right?
this is nice for one of those really hot days, even during the fall or winter when it's not so hot
Well,
and
in
it's
the house,
freezing. But
it's a nice weight. You don't
yeah,
mind it. You don't get too hot. You don't get too cold. So I think the thing we added was we found shorts and we found pants with the same protection.
because like I said, I've dropped 50 pounds since this journey started. A year and a half, 2 years ago, and
The shorts don't fit.
my shorts don't fit. And I'm wrenching like the shorts that I do have that were from that time. I've got to wrench the belt so tight that it leaves marks in your sides and
Well, and it
stuff.
was
And
funny. It was, like we tried to get you a pair of pants because you had lost a lot of weight. Um, and like 2019, I got you a smaller waistband because your other ones were too big.
mhm.
And you were like, okay, well, I can button them, but I can't breathe. So we kind of went back to that bigger size and then we never adjusted again. So it was time to adjust again. So I'm
Yep.
hoping these fit. You probably have to try them on because I don't know if you dropped two sizes
So
because you were so close to that one size. So I don't know.
so that is something that we didn't plan on. Like I'm looking at some of my shirts hanging up in the closet, and I'm like,
Yeah,
wow, these don't fit. These fit. These.
I think you probably need
So
to go through all this one day
yep.
and
So
just start to go through. You know I can sew. So if there's a shirt you really want to keep, maybe we can make you a quilt.
so that's a interesting thing that you don't think about that you will find yourself into.
Well, I
Um,
think it kind of shocked us too because you're not on chemo, and most people are like they know that people who are taking chemo, they often get very sick and therefore drop a lot of weight during it.
right.
But it's not as well known in immunotherapy that
Yep.
you drop a lot of weight. And
And
could it be
it
because you made
wasn't
other changes?
it
Maybe.
wasn't like a dramatic weight loss. It was because I was eating to my sugar. So if my sugar number was high, I wouldn't eat. And then, if my sugar number was okay, 150s or around there, then I would eat.
Which
Or
you
I would
also
only
know isn't good for you, right?
right. But that's how if I was running 175, 200, then
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't even think about eating. And so I was gradually, slowly losing weight. I mean, I before actually being diagnosed, I'd probably dropped 20 pounds,
Probably.
and then another 30 during treatments
Yeah.
and brain surgery. So when you look at it like that, it's not as bad. Over the next over what was that 18 months, you
And
know.
I think
So
the kids notice it more. I mean, I notice it, and I think, like I've said before, I think more than just losing fat and weight, you've lost a lot of muscle mass, which has
yep.
changed the the contour and the shape of your body.
Which
Um,
I noticed that the other day, it kind of really hit home that I lost a lot of muscle mass. I was taking our lab for a walk, and I mean he was excited to walk, and he was a pulling and pulling and pulling, and where I used to be able to just wrench him back and hold tight, I mean I had to kind of wrap it around my body. So basically, I'd have the leash hand or the hand holding the leash behind my back, and then the leash would come out the other side of me, and that way he had to pull against my body
right.
versus, and I
Well,
was like, holy crap,
well,
this this sucks.
the good thing is your cardiologist said once we get you walking more and you get that endurance, the next step is weight training
Yep, yep,
and strength training. She's like nothing crazy, but you can lift a little weight to kind of get some muscle mass back because it is good for you.
and I've been like looking at pulling the old bicycle out.
Yeah, I think that's good. But we could go to the gym together. I ask you all the time to work out.
Yeah, yeah, we
So
probably start going to the Y again.
so we can start going to the Y again. And that can be our workout.
Yep,
I think that's a great idea. Maybe a, maybe we could start with like a couple times a week and just ease into it. A couple
yep,
times a week.
yep. So that's always a work in progress.
Right. Well,
But
I think we're going to put that on a time
the
frame of sorts.
the other, I mean, so this week's been just some just being tired because I haven't napped. Usually I get a nap in a day, but I haven't done that. I've went up and laid down for a little bit just to rest or just to get away, um, and then I'm back at it. Had some just the knee pain, just sore. Really after the long walks, like the we went to the outlets or whatever, and after the weekend, long weekend, being in the car, being on our feet all day, that's when I'm noticing the knee pains. Otherwise, not too bad, not too bad. Um, so I've heard from a couple people who've listened to our podcast, and I'm always interested to, even with the YouTube videos, to hear somebody's reaction, and I want them to be completely honest and not just tell me it's okay or it's good. I want them to tell me whether or not it's engaging, whether or not it's, and
Right. Just a little feedback.
yeah, little, and these are people I trust, and they said that it was very informative. We've heard that a few times. That it's
Right.
very informative stuff that they didn't know,
Stuff we didn't share.
stuff we didn't share, and the my one buddy said, I remember going. So it's like Cub said, it's like reliving it, listening to it,
Mm-hmm.
because he goes, I remember when that happened. I remember when that happened. I remember you talking about this, and because of the pandemic was all over the place, we couldn't see each other. We went like I don't know what, a year almost without hanging out, and then
Yeah.
once things kind of lifted up, but we were talking on the phone and stuff, so he'd check in on me and stuff, and so he would remember all these things, and we were posting on Facebook and whatever, which segues into to the topic that I wanted to get into was, how do you tell somebody, a family, distant family member, and I mean distance by like 500 miles away. You talk,
Long a family member across the miles.
yeah, not like third cousin, but just like
Well, and
when you
anybody,
first
how do
get
you tell them?
when you get first diagnosed. Um, like I remember talking to the guys at work because they would have to cover me being off, and they were as soon as you mentioned um, at that time we were looking at lymphoma. I mean, eyes got huge, as big as saucers, and just like, oh, and they didn't know how to respond. And the one guy, he was kind of like, what's going on? You're taking this time, you're doing this, you're doing that. What's going on? And I was like, well, we're looking at this, and then it could be cancer. So, and I mean, he went pale and started like fumbling over words, and I'm like, it's all right, whatever. It's we're not sure what it is yet, but that's what we're looking at. And then next thing you know, a couple days later, I'm in the ER, and I haven't been back to work since.
Right.
So, um, but we kind of ran into that. I don't want to say issue. I want to say situation where we don't know. Like she made a lot of calls in the hospital
Yeah. I
to
think I
let
called all your family
everybody
to make
know
sure they
that
knew.
we were in the hospital and this is what they were looking at. And I can tell you, I don't know what any of the conversations were like. I remember the couple guys at work that were like eyes as big as saucers and kind of fumbling over words, and then a couple of them were real supportive and hey, I know somebody who's going through chemo right now, and this is what they're doing, and so it was kind of different, so you had the different um, mix of reactions. Um, so I
So,
don't.
I think the funniest one, and you know this one. You know this one. I think is the funniest one, and it was at the beginning. It's when we thought it was lymphoma. We told the oldest daughter, and that was a hard call to make. To be like, okay, here's the deal. I think telling your kids number one is always hardest,
Yep.
but
And
knowing that she was
she was
she was 4 hours from home.
she's 4.5 hours away from home and
She was in school. Like
in training.
there were a lot of things going on, but we told her, and as soon as she knew that they thought it was cancer, she surprised us and said, "I'm coming home." And we said, "You don't have to come home. There's nothing we know." But I think she had to see her, set her eyes on you. She had to see you. She had to hug you. Um, and so when she was home, we went to visit cousins in Charlotte. Like, so he has a set of cousins, or a cousin and her family in Charlotte now. They just moved there a few years ago. And that cousin's sister is in Georgia. And we visit Georgia often to see. You have two different families of cousins in Georgia.
Yeah, we probably go once or twice a year.
Maybe
Well,
sometimes more than that. It just kind of depends on what's going on.
yeah,
Um,
it's been a while since we've been over there, but
but anyway, they were all together, and so they invited us to come hang out. So we did, and you know we hadn't told anybody. We hadn't told anybody outside the family. I think like my sister knew, my best friends knew, just because I had to have an outlet, and I was scared and nervous, and I had to trust somebody with my feelings.
and this is at the beginning, so this is like beginning of
This is July, August,
early July,
mid July.
mid July.
Yeah, mid July to
So
August,
mid July of 2020, no 2021,
2021.
where I was having symptoms and we were still at the beginning of finding out.
Yeah, they were like we had just gone to oncology, and I don't know if we had had the PET scan yet, the initial PET scan,
I think
but we didn't have the biopsy yet because
we
we
were
were
waiting on
waiting.
that. Yep.
And we sat down and we were having a good time. We decided to play a game, and the game was it's one of those questions of okay, kind of a what would you do, and your cousin's husband pulled a card, and the card was like, how would you tell somebody you had cancer? And I looked at him, he looked at me, the kids, we were all sitting by each other, so we all kind of looked
All
at each
three,
other,
all three of our girls looked at each other and then started laughing.
and the family read it, and they go, what's going on? And I just kind of looked at you and I said, what are you going to do? Like,
And so I,
what's the deal? What are you going to do? And they got real serious, and they stopped. They said, what do you what's going on? What do you guys need to say?
like, you could have heard a pin drop. It's almost like when the cops show up at a bar and you're underage, like instant sober, right?
Our
Everybody was
family,
like,
we were
"What?"
all looking at each other like, oh, I don't want to say anything. Dad, are you just going to let this slide? Are you going to let this
And
slide?
so I said, "Well, shit. Well, this is where we think I might have uh, lymphoma." And they were like, "Do what?" I mean, the whole rest of the evening changed,
Yeah.
and I mean, it just like took the wind out of everything. And her cousin-in-law, he which we hadn't really had much interaction with him for a
No,
while,
I
but
mean,
he was kind of like, okay, I'm done. I'm not playing this game anymore. Don't.
and I
And
think
we all laughed,
we're like,
and
no, no, it's
we
okay.
were lighthearted about the whole thing, and we were like, we haven't told anybody because we're not sure. We told the kids that this is what they're looking
Well,
at.
we knew at that point it was cancer,
Yeah.
but we didn't know what
What?
kind of cancer. We
Yeah.
didn't know how severe. We didn't know what stage. We
So
knew nothing.
we were still in that stage, and so it was kind of,
It was comical now that we look at it.
yeah,
I can still see that. I can see it.
we look back, and we've gotten together with them a lot more, and so that relationship's gotten a lot stronger.
The joke is like that game has never been played again. He
Yes.
said we're never playing this
And
game again.
anytime they say, "Do you want to play a game?" He's like, "Nope, nope."
Nope.
So,
Nope.
but
So I mean that's the funniest one. It's just as funny because in a serious time it was super for us in a lighthearted way to tell someone because when I made all the calls to your family, one, they didn't expect this call.
no, no, because they had no
Um,
idea.
and when I say all the family, I basically called his aunts um, and a couple cousins he's really close to. I didn't go through the line and call everybody. I just asked the aunts to let their kids know, unless there's a really close relationship because you do have a really close relationship with some of your cousins.
Hmm.
Um, and so I wanted to make sure they heard it from me. Because Lee wasn't able to say anything, so I wanted to make sure they heard it from me. They got the right information. They got the most up to date information. Um, and it's funny because your one cousin, I remember saying to him on the phone, "Hey, I got to tell you something." And then I said, "Are you sure this is so and so?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "I guess I've never talked to you on the phone in
Yeah.
20 in 22 years of being together, 21 years of being together. I never called this cousin and spoke to him on the phone."
Yep. And I don't think I had either. We've texted, and one of my cousins said, "Man," he goes, "we haven't like seen each other and talked face to face or over the phone in several years." And I was like, "Nah." And he's like, "Yeah." And we had gotten into like a texting. So I mean, we text.
A guy cousin group.
Yeah, we text back and forth, and always and have for years. But to actually be in the same place and face to face or
I think the July
conversation,
before was the first time you'd seen him in many years.
yeah, since 2016. But we've been texting and whatever, sharing photos and whatever. But anyway, so it was kind of hard. And then
Yeah.
certain ones I felt like I had to call and just talk to once I had the brain surgery done, and because there was all the questions and asking, but
I think
um,
one of the coolest talks and one that was super powerful for me there were two I think that were powerful for me and that I needed. So our youngest daughter, she has a little more struggle in school. You know, it's just harder for her. Um, she has just a few more obstacles, and she has an aide that kind of helps her. They just keep her on track to make sure she's doing her homework, to make sure she's understanding her homework, to make sure she's advocating for herself. And our daughter actually refers to her, and she is in her phone, as my most favorite person in the world. And because I knew this was going to affect our kids, and that while I was a mom, I knew that I had to do everything I needed to do for you. You know, like I didn't want to miss something for you while I was trying to figure out how to make sure everybody's homework got done. And so I called her right away and I just said, hey, I know this school is starting soon, and I want you to, I know she talks to you and she trusts you, and I want to let you know something because I'm going to need some help. I'm just going to need some help to make sure all of this stuff is done for her and I don't miss something, because I don't want to put her her academics in jeopardy because I missed something, and I just need a partner. And she was so gracious and she said, "Listen, you take care of him and I will handle school. I will follow her classes. I will make sure everything's done. You know, let me handle her schoolwork and you handle what you need to handle for him." And I was so grateful that she offered that help, and she did exactly that. Because I would call and check into something, and she's like, "I told you I have that handled.
Yep.
Let me handle."
Yep. And I
And
had a guy.
it gave our youngest daughter someone to talk to, because they are very close. So it was a nice outlet for her as well.
And I had found that, um, so a couple of YouTube friends, they called and they said, hey, one guy was like, I'm seeing something, what the hell, and I don't know what's going on, so what the hell's going on? And, we talked, and it was a good conversation, and I mean, we laughed a lot, and, trying to, it's not all doom and gloom, I'm like, it's just, this, and we're gonna bang right through it. Don't,
Was
not a big deal.
was this after the Facebook page?
I think, yeah, it was before.
Because okay,
It was before, and
okay.
then
Well,
it got to be easier, to put it up. We created a Facebook page called Lee's Super Support Squad.
because everybody was and grateful. I'm grateful that
Yep.
they all wanted to check on you and updates, but I couldn't. People were calling and texting your phone. They were calling and texting my phone. They were Facebooking me. They were Facebooking you, and I just couldn't keep up. And I just said, "Let me do this." And honestly, I started it, and I didn't realize it went live when it did. And instantly, one
Yep.
of your YouTube friends sent me a message, and he said, "What is going on with Lee?"
Yep.
And I
And
said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it had already posted. Let me fill you in."
yep. So then when I talked to him, we talked for a couple hours and just filling him in, and he was like, okay, I feel better now that I've talked to you, and that's where a lot of the family was is like they just had to hear the voice, and because I'm not one to, lack of a better term, show weakness,
Well, you're not one to
and
share things.
and I don't share things,
And
and I
I'm an
don't,
oversharer,
yeah.
so
So I kind of just, this is nothing. It's just an obstacle, whatever. And that mentality, I think, really, really helped through the treatments.
yeah.
I think, and I do, because I started reading some different um, books, like sharing stories of cancer survivors and people who didn't, and things that they did, and a positive attitude and their faith in God was a lot of the positive things that or a lot of the things that they said that helped them through it was a positive attitude and in their faith.
Yeah.
You know, and there were some that were complete atheists, got hit with cancer, and became outreach preachers. Yeah, hey, pretty cool.
I think, like I said, there were a couple. The other message I got, and I needed it because I was, we were, um, well, right before we got the diagnosis, one of our daughters had COVID, and I had to call because both of the girls were swimming, and I had to call like the COVID line to report it, and it was the school nurse who answered was the school nurse that our daughters had all through elementary school. And so I was very familiar with her, first name basis with her. And I said, "Oh my gosh, it's you." And she said, "Hey, how are you doing? I haven't talked to you forever. How are the girls? How's the family?" Well, we're kind of in a sucky place. She goes, "Yeah, COVID sucks." I said, "No, no, no." I said, "The husband's thrown a good one." And when I told her, her voice just dropped. And she said, "Oh my God. Oh my God." So she was like, "Okay, okay, here's what we need to do." Kind of taking what she needed to do and comforting me and
And
whatever.
it's one of those that when you're talking to somebody, and I think I mentioned this before, you can tell the genuinity
Yeah.
of that person. When you tell them something like this, and it's like, hey, just so you know, I got metastatic melanoma cancer in my brain, so I'm sorry, I'm not going to remember this conversation tomorrow.
Right.
Um, so it's kind of, I mean, that's kind of the running kind of giggle here is I forget stuff.
Right.
Cub told me for a week what her schedule was for school that she was off today, and I got up and I went to her room. I said, "Are we going to school today or what?" She goes, "Dad, I've been telling you for over a week." And I was like, "Yeah, I forgot. Never mind."
But going back, like the other conversation after the Facebook group hit was your cousin's wife. She
Yep.
Facebooked me a message and she said, "Call me right now." And so I called her and she was like, "What is going on?" And I told her, and she said, "Well, I want to share a little bit of hope with you because I know that you've already looked at the numbers. I know you've already looked."
Yep.
And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "So my mom was diagnosed with the same thing in her lungs, like years ago, and she's been on immunotherapy, and she's doing great. She's getting ready to finish her whole treatment." And I think I said I needed that. Thank you. You'll never know
Yep.
how good that feels because when you look it up, and I know I'm a medical provider myself. I know that I shouldn't look it up, but I also thirst for information and knowledge. And because we said through the whole process of this doctor to this doctor to this doctor, it felt like we were getting one more piece of the puzzle, but nobody was ready yet to share what that puzzle might look like. Nobody wanted to talk about the prognosis and the treatment and how we're really going to fight this until the brain tumor was done and we went to the oncologist for the first time. But up until then, everybody was like, "Here's a piece, here's a little nibble," and then you go to the next doctor and you got another little nibble. And I know now that it's because they didn't have the answers. At the time, I'm an answer person. I want an answer. You give me ambiguous things and I'm going to look it up and I'm going to try to fit this puzzle piece together. So I need you to tell me. I'm much better if you give me all of the information than if you give me piece by piece by piece.
And while she's working on LMNOP, I'm stuck going, it'll be all right.
You are
Whatever.
still in the idea that, I I just have a little infection.
Yeah, it'll be all right. Just give me some antibiotics. We'll be good. Whatever.
Right. I was already at the end of the alphabet, and he was still
Yeah.
at it. Oh, it's just a little infection.
Like I hadn't
It's a
grasped
sinus headache.
I hadn't grasped the severity of it at all.
No, no, you
And
didn't.
and I don't think I had it until we were almost done with treatment. When I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So like I went through 12 months of treatment, and yeah, I knew it. Yeah, I was just living day to day, but my brain's still healing from the traumatic injury, as the oncologist put it. Um, I had basically three traumatic injuries: the cancer, the radiation, and the surgery. So it's starting to kind of sink in now how bad it really was.
Yeah.
Um, but I think telling my dad was kind of rough because you could just hear the crickets on the other end of the line, and he was trying to be okay.
He was trying to be
What
stoic.
what 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 are we gonna do?
Mhm.
What do you need me to do? And that's you don't know, and
Mhm.
that's hard because when you tell somebody and they're like, okay, what do you need help with?
Mhm.
Well, and I got very tired of saying, how the fuck am I supposed to know? I don't know.
Right.
I've not done this.
I I know your one cousin called. He's like, "What can I do? I need to do something." And before I could even text him back, he said, "Don't even tell me to start praying because I've already been praying. I need to
Yep.
know like something I can do to help you."
And that's just where it's difficult. Um, at that time we had both or two of the three girls were home, and one was driving, so she was able to get the other one around and whatever. Um, but it was just like the common things. We were like, I don't know, and we weren't ones. I'm not one to ask for things, but if somebody said, hey, you have a meal train coming on Tuesday,
Okay, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
yeah, and that our lovely group, that couple that surprise us every
Our
Friday.
Friday night dinner folk.
Yes, and I think of them often. They've since moved to
Um,
Texas,
I did look up tickets to see how much plane tickets were to go see them because I missed them tremendously.
and
I
this would
just miss hearing. He has a voice that was so calming to me,
yeah,
and she had the ability to be like, "Don't be tough with me. It's okay. I see you, sister," and give me a hug when I needed one.
yep,
So they took just as much care of me as they did of you,
yep.
and I'll be grateful for that. But I did look up tickets today to see how much it would be to
Well,
go
the
see them.
the Houston Livestock and Rodeo barbecue competitions this weekend, this coming
Are
weekend.
you telling
So
me we're hopping a plane?
no, it would be nice,
It
but
would it would be so nice. But I think you're right. Like telling people, it was hard, and we have extended family, and my family is very small. Yours is much larger, but I texted my only cousin, like my only cousin, not my mom's cousins, not this is my cousin, and he said, because I think it finally hit you. If you remember, we were sitting right in here, and I sent a message to my sister and I said, I feel like he's nesting. If you can nest for cancer, because you were going through stuff and you were getting rid of stuff and you were cleaning this closet and you were doing all this stuff, and he happened to text me. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, we're cleaning the closet." And he's like, "Well, that sounds boring. Why are you cleaning the closet?" Okay, here's why.
I don't even remember that.
Oh, yeah, you were nesting this room. You were organizing. You were going through his stuff. It was like you were preparing for a baby. But I told him, and he said, "That doesn't sound like just nothing happening at your house, girl." And I said, well,
I had twins, tumors.
you did. You had twin tumors. Um, but like that was kind of a hard conversation. But again, he was like, it's okay. You're going to be fine. What do you need? Do you need anything? And he is that person that takes charge and he just, this is what you need to do. And I'm like, okay, okay, thank you. I needed that.
Do you remember the night we were out to dinner at a Waffle House, and we were with a couple, and there was a lady there that was working, and she had a Waffle House hat on that had the
Okay, listen, I can't remember that night. I had quite a few beers.
yeah, it was a so we went out and
It was a nice release for me. It was one of the first times we'd gone out with other people
yep
after all this started.
yep and so we went to the Waffle House because that was the only thing open at that time of night, and there was a lady there, and she had a Waffle House hat on, but it had a pink ribbon. So and it was on the Waffle House hat, so it was like a sponsored or whatever. But anyway, um, and I asked her, "Hey, so your pink ribbon?" And she was like, "Yeah." I said, "So what's the story?" So she was sharing. I said, "Well, I'm going through melanoma treatments right now," and she's like, "Oh." And then that opened up a conversation, and for this lady, you could tell she hadn't been asked to tell her story. And for me, it was still coming to terms with I've got cancer, and I was probably about a third of the way through treatments, and so it was still me coming to terms with it and being okay to talk about it. And this lady, she looked like, I mean, she was having a rough night, and the big rush hadn't even started yet. And so talking about it, I mean, it brightened her day. She was smiling the rest of our visit,
Yeah,
and that's kind of one of those things that if you see somebody wearing a ribbon hat or a ribbon shirt or something, it's okay to ask. And if they don't want to tell you, whatever, that's
right.
fine too.
Yeah,
But that little bit of joy, or that one question, and to say I'm going through this, now there's a common ground, and that just uplifted her a bit. That not every whenever you come across somebody else who's fighting the same fight but in a different way,
correct.
it's that was something I hadn't encountered, and I don't know why I did it. It just kind of happened, and then I found myself in a conversation. So it was almost like that was something that I had to do. And shortly after that, when I when I started noticing it on my skin changing color, we talked about that. That's when I started getting self conscious because then I'm like, oh man, I've got to, I'm getting tired of being the cancer boy here. But it's because now it's on the outside.
Right. And other people can see something's different.
Right, right. So so you're kind of like okay, and I kind of lashed out at the church group just a little bit because they would always ask me, how are you doing? Not like okay, so let's get on to new business kind of thing. You're still got cancer, okay? You're still doing treatments, okay? Let's get on and let's talk about the weather. But they would always ask me like kind of how are you doing? What's the where are we at? What's anything new? Whatever, like because they were genuinely concerned, and I kind of was like, there's more to me than this. But at the time, that's all there was to me. I mean, yes, I'm a dad. Yes, I'm a pain in the ass, and it's I'm not the same guy that I was, but in my mind, I'm like, there's more to me than just this. But
Right.
there's nothing else that I'm doing. But what
Living
seems like,
and surviving and
yeah, it seems like I'm just sitting in a chair reading a book. But on the inside, I mean, it's like the movie 300. I mean, there's a battle going on, and you don't see it.
Right.
And that's the hard part. So the days where you're like really exhausted, it's because your insides are fighting like crazy. And that was once I came to that realization that that connection or whatever the way to think of it that changed my perspective of um, you know being cancer boy.
Okay, and Cancer Boy came from, I'll tell you, when this happened, and we knew the seriousness now. We knew it was in his brain. We knew we were going to have brain surgery. And I say we because we both had it. He physically had it. We both had it spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Um, we decided that we were going to laugh
Hmm.
and we were going to dance our way through it. We were going to be as silly as we could be, as lighthearted as we could be. And a lot of people have said like we are shocked at how well you you came to this and how well you've been handling it. Well, we didn't have another way. We could, and I did cry every day. There are still days I cry. That's happening less and less. But we're like it can own us or we can own it, and we're gonna take charge because if this was your last hurrah, our kids were gonna watch us do it with every bit of humor and grace that we could muster. We weren't gonna cry every day in front of the kids, and I would come to my room or go to the bathroom, which has always been my safe spot, and that's where I could let go. But I tried really hard not in front of the kids. But as one of the lightened ways of which we dealt with this, we made jokes a lot. Like it wouldn't be rare for us to be like, "Well, go ask Cancer Boy what he wants for dinner," and chuckle
Yeah.
and it wasn't being mean. It was really trying to find a light.
And fortunately, with immunotherapy, it's not like chemo where it just destroys you. So there wasn't that that part of it.
Yeah.
So they it so that part was I don't want to say nice, but helpful
hmm I mean, there
because
were still plenty of things we had to watch out for.
yeah, because there's a lot of everybody thinks of cancer, chemo, you become frail and weak, and then you have to basically your immune system has to start all over, so you have no energy, you can barely walk, kind of thing.
No visitors,
Yeah,
just a whole different scenario.
and then you become skin and bones, and all that.
And
So
vomiting and the whole shebang.
with the immunotherapy, I didn't have all that, and we really kind of started watching the intake of food and what was coming in because it's the cancer likes sugar, so that became a struggle. And there for a while I didn't want sugar, but I wanted biscuits, and then I didn't want biscuits, and I wanted a zebra cake, but I would split the zebra cake with a dog, so that way I didn't eat up the whole thing, and then it just completely shut off, and all I wanted was cheese and pepperonis.
I know, right? But
So
I think we did. We used a lot of humor. We made a lot of jokes. Um, we tried to think of slogans for T-shirts and just anything that we could laugh about, anything that we could share with each other. Um, I remember the girls holding a magnet to your head, going, "Nope, it's not magnetized," because they thought it'd be really cool if that metal plate could hold a magnet. Because seriously, that is some cool shit. And while
and you
we
wonder why I can't remember stuff.
while we laughed about it, I don't think everybody received it as funny as we did. Um, but then again, we said we don't have to apologize to anyone on how we are handling it.
Yep.
It's if we
Each
wanted to make jokes, if we wanted to laugh, if we wanted to pick at you a little bit, like, oh,
we
don't remember
treated
that, you won't remember it anyway, kind of thing.
we
Um,
treated each day as a celebration.
hmm
I mean, to be honest, we didn't have cake and ice cream and balloons every day, but
well, some of us might have had ice cream every
yeah,
day for a while.
mom had ice cream a lot.
I
But
did.
we we treated it as a celebration when we
hmm
didn't want to look bad and sad and all that, and because we talked about the I don't know the what was it, the hierarchy.
Yeah, the hierarchy
So
of being who you can complain to.
basically, as the patient, you're the center, and if you're shitty, everybody you talk to is going to feel shitty, and they're going to remember you being shitty going through treatment. Now, that's not to say that some people aren't, and they don't deserve, that they deserve it, and that didn't
Well,
sound right.
everyone's allowed to feel however
So,
they want to feel. We just
so
decided we're going to do it
yeah,
with laughter and light.
this is the way we decided to do it, and that's the way that I decided. So as long as I was lighthearted and
Right.
kind of like, yeah, this is no big deal, then it was it made everybody else feel a little more comfortable when they were around me,
Well, and it
because a
also
lot of times,
allowed us to open up
yeah.
with what was going on
So
because it wasn't so
so
dark.
some of the hard conversations would be a lot harder if we were dark and negative and just kind of waiting to die. So
Now,
that was that gave the kids strength that they didn't know that they had. That gave friends and family, a sense of security in the unknown. I mean, because it's not like we see a lot of, like, you're not with them every other weekend. You know what I mean? So they didn't you don't see the progression. They only see what's posted or what's talked about on the phone or whatever. So to be positive and be able to laugh at them and laugh with them, then that helped.
and I think the most common thing I heard was one, I can't believe how well you guys are handling this. You're an inspiration to us. And two, he looks really good.
Yeah.
Like that was the other thing. He looks really good.
Yep. And that was
And I'm like, well, that's yeah. Like he looks about the same. There's minor things, and there's things that I see because I'm with him every day. That overall, you always did look really good
yep.
as you were dealing through even the hardest parts in the beginning. You might look tired, but when you again back to what you said about chemo, when you think of cancer, you think of chemo, and people who are undergoing chemo, they are warriors in a whole different rate. And not saying that immunotherapy is easy, but chemo is definitely more taxing, I think,
Hmm.
on the body for many people. And it's a lot of visuals they can't hide. And you visually, you got thinner. There were times you got a little paler. There were times your eyes looked really tired, but you kept your hair. You kept a lot of your coloring. You kept, um, your eyes weren't sunken, and you just didn't look distraught all the time. So that was the other comment I kept getting was, he looks really good. And some of your cousins would say things like, he looks good. Is he feeling good? Like, is he really okay? And I'm like, yeah, he's okay for now, given everything, and they needed to hear that and they needed to see that.
Because if they ask me, yeah, I'm great, tip top.
Well, and that's why your doctor always looks at me when he says something to you. And that's
Yep.
the place that we had the most laughs, and we've always had the most laughs are in his office. Um, and I don't know how anybody else handles those appointments, but we handle those appointments with a lot of laughter with your doctor.
Yeah,
Like I've
because
offered to leave you with him many times. He's never taken me up on it.
well, and I think a lot of it was I was responding well to the treatments,
Yeah, I think
and
it would have been different had you
he
not been.
knew he knew like he could look at me when he was talking over my head, and not just because of the brain couldn't keep up, but because he was literally talking doctor talk over my head, and I would just give him this blank spaced out look, and he'd say, "Okay, hold on," and then he would draw a picture, and I was good. So
And
he,
we mean literal pictures, y'all. I
yeah,
have probably three or four
on the refrigerator.
pictures. Yeah, I really think I need a magnet that says, "Look what he did. Look what so and so did today." Um,
But it was all about our attitude. That because I in the beginning I just kind of brushed it off. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Let's just go to the doctor, do what they say, and let's get on with it. We'll be done. All right, cool. And he, I don't know why this just popped in my head, but remember that lady that brought me the contrast, and she brings me this quart jar,
nurse, the nurse.
the nurse, and she says, "Hey, you got 45 minutes. Take this, drink this contrast." And I told her, "Hold on a minute." She said, "What?" And I downed this quart jar of contrast, and I handed it back to her. She goes, "What in the hell just happened?" I said, "You told me it was nasty, so why am I going to sip on it for 45 minutes?"
Oh my gosh, you tormented that poor little nurse that day.
Oh yeah.
It was it was during your initial hospital stay. It was before your brain surgery. And we were in the hospital, and she was on your shift for maybe 12 hours. Like we had her for a very short time, and you did that. But then on the floor, there was also another patient who just yelled, and she went running because they wanted to get to him because he was causing some kind of a disturbance of sorts. So it was the day you were supposed to discharge, and so you stood at the door and you yelled her name, and you would pace back and forth, and you're like, when can I leave? When can I leave? Is it my turn yet? Where are you? What are you doing? Are you answering that phone? I'm gonna need a pen. Just anything. And she came in and she said, what is wrong with you? And you just looked at her and you said, well, it worked for the guy down there. I just thought maybe.
I vaguely remember that.
And I'm like,
I
I
remember
am
her.
so sorry. And she come in and she's like, stop causing trouble.
I remember her coming
With a
in.
big smile and a laugh.
Yeah.
She wasn't serious, but
I remember her coming in with that contrast, and
mhm.
it was like, "You got to drink this," and I downed it, and she was just like, "I've never seen that before. What the hell just happened?" But then I kind of, now that you say that,
Like you were
I
just
kind of remember.
obnoxious. And you're just like, well, it helped that guy down there. He gets your service really fast. I just want to go home. But I think yeah, we have decided we're gonna laugh about some of this, and no, it's not all laughable. And no, a lot of it is serious, and it is hard, and it is strong, and it is ugly, and it is full of resentment. But I think you know, and I believe this, that you always have choices in life,
Mhm.
and you don't have to like either choice. You don't have to like either one, but you always have a choice. So in a perfect world, we wouldn't be in this mess.
But in a lot of this though, it's you're kind of looking at it as the patient, as the person, as the father. How do you want to be remembered?
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's kind of hard because nobody's going to remember 10 years when you were standing up on stage at a comedy club getting hit in the face with a cream pie,
Oh, if you
but
volunteered, I would remember that.
they'll remember, like, the first thing they'll come to mind when they mention your name is how they saw you last.
Hmm.
And if you were, depressed and all that, then they're going to remember that.
Well, and
So by taking this devastating
event.
event, yeah,
Huh?
lack of a better term, I guess,
I know there's no real term. Event makes it sound fancy, but
yeah, this life change and hitting it head on and keeping a positive attitude, and it helped the kids something fierce, but it also kind of made them think that we're putting on the show, but then it was like, no, we're living the show, baby.
yeah.
So
Well, and I said, and I mentioned that I joined support groups right away with how to care, and I am forever grateful that so far in this journey, you haven't had the response that other people have
right,
had.
right,
People on these groups are talking about the same cancer, the same kind of treatment, and how it took their very kind, very loving, very engaging spouse and made them angry and full of hate and full of rage, and how these caregivers were like, I don't want to leave.
yeah. It turned
However,
them.
it makes me
It turned
want to
them.
leave.
It turned them almost bipolar. I mean,
Yeah,
because
I
it
mean
it
it.
flipped a script on them, and they were completely different. And I did. I was very aware that because she told me about this, and I was like, okay, so I need to be aware of being cranky asshole. So when I would feel that, and this is where I'm learning to say, hey, I don't feel good. That I could just look at her and say, not today, and she's like, okay,
Yeah, you're getting much better at
and
saying today's a bad day. I don't know why it's a bad day, but I feel off, and I think that's important.
and it's there's no rhyme or reason to it, but I have to acknowledge it and not be the one lashing out. And so as she's telling me some of these side effects, and the doctor's telling me that, I'm kind of like put it in the back of the left side of my head
Well,
because
that'd be your right side, dear.
well, the right side, because the left side's where I had this stuff.
Damaged.
But
The left side is damaged.
so I'd put it off to the back side there, and just to be aware of these things. And there were some of them that I saw that were, how this affected all their hobbies. Like nothing
Hmm.
seemed to be enjoyable anymore. And I'm kind of seeing that, I'm seeing that.
You are.
And, it's that part's kind of different. Because, I mean, it's just like the things I've been doing for years. Now, all of a sudden, which is really tough because the Bengals are actually playing good.
Right?
So,
You've had a good couple of football seasons and you haven't enjoyed it
yeah,
near as much.
near as much as I should.
But
But anyway, um, so thank you all for listening to us ramble.
yeah,
Um,
we do actually come in with like ideas of what we want to say and talk about. And then we get talking and it leads down another path. And I
yep,
guess that is, that's kind of the way all of this goes. Like it started with the bump that we thought was an infection, which ended up being a really big infection. Um,
yep,
and we took another path. And then we thought we had that path kind of knocked out. We knew what we were going to do. And then we took another path. So changing our path and changing our course is really all just part of the whole experience and the journey itself.
yep.
So why should the podcast be different?
This journey's been a roller coaster,
Mhm.
uh, and not just any roller coaster. We're talking like flips, turns, loop de loops at high speed.
And going backwards sometimes.
Yes,
There's a little backwards motion every now and again as well.
it's almost like playing pinball.
I
Bloop bloop
yeah,
bloop bloop
and I
bloop
think
bloop bloop
I
bloop bloop.
think whoever made this roller coaster, they're still building the track while our car is a rolling.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of good support. Um, we've had some experiences that have been very positive,
I
and
never.
we've made tried to make the best out of everything because if we are uncomfortable, everybody around us is uncomfortable, which makes it a very uncomfortable situation that nobody wants to be in. So then you end up alone.
Well, I would never choose. If somebody said, if you could change it and go back and not have cancer, would you? Well, yeah, absolutely, I would choose it. But along with cancer came highs and lows and memories and challenges and things we've succeeded through and things we fought hard about, things that you and I have been forced to talk about that we weren't ready to talk about, things that have shown us great joy.
I,
So
I don't know that I would go back to what I was doing
no, but
before cancer.
I
I
would
mean,
never choose for cancer to invade you and
yeah,
hurt you the way it has and hurt us in that sense that is it's just hurts.
but what it's done for us,
Has been amazing in
yes,
an unexpected way.
in an unexpected way, it has strengthened the family bonds not only in our group of
Group of
five,
five.
but also friends, extended family, aunts and uncles, cousins. I mean, it's strengthened that and opened up lines of communication that were um,
Not strange. I mean,
no,
they were
they were
just
just
passive,
not yeah. I
just
mean,
kind of passive. Like if you saw them, we talked, but we didn't go out of our way to talk
yeah,
necessarily. Um, and so that's changed, and for that, it's been good.
yep. And it is nice when you're wearing, you find somebody and you ask them to share their story, and it gives them that. In I'm able to say, well, I'm a warrior also, and that is that's powerful to somebody who unexpectedly, might have had a bad thing or is just having a bad day, and then all of a sudden you meet somebody that can relate.
Hmm.
And this lady was going through chemo, and she's working at Waffle House going through chemo. That's some tough stuff.
That's definitely some tough stuff.
Yes, and there's many people who have a lot worse than what I had it, and my hats off to them. We're thinking of them,